shy little girl refused to dance at the father-daughter ball until a stranger's kindness changed everything. Aiden Marshall had everything a man could dream of. His name was known in every business magazine, his face often seen on TV whenever someone talked about successful people. He owned companies, buildings, and even the hotel where tonight's grand event was happening. But behind all the money and fame, Aiden was just a man who didn't know how to reach the one person who mattered most, his daughter, Lily. Lily was 8 years old, small and delicate, with big blue eyes that always seemed to be searching for something she couldn't find. She rarely spoke even at home. When she did, her voice was soft and uncertain, like she was afraid the world might not listen. Aiden tried everything he could think of to help her. He hired the best teachers, the best doctors, and even child psychologists who told him that Lily just needed time. But it had already been 2 years since his wife, Clara, passed away. Lily had only grown quieter. Every morning before work, Aiden would sit with her at the breakfast table. He'd try to start small conversations, asking how she slept, what she wanted for lunch, if she wanted to go out that weekend. But Lily usually just nodded or shrugged. Sometimes she would whisper a word or two, but never more than that. She always looked so lost, and Aiden couldn't understand why. He blamed himself for not being around enough, for always being too busy running his company. He wished he knew how to fix it. But emotions weren't something you could throw money at. When the invitation for the father-daughter dance arrived from Lily's school, Aiden saw it as a chance, maybe the only one, to finally connect with her. He wanted to see her happy again, even just for one evening. He wanted her to laugh and dance like other kids did. The invitation was printed on a pink card with little gold stars, and he handed it to Lily one evening after dinner. She read it quietly, her small fingers tracing the edges of the paper. Then she looked up at him with uncertain eyes and asked in a whisper, "Do I have to dance?" Aiden's heart ached. He smiled as gently as he could and said, "Only if you want to, sweetheart. We can just go and watch if that makes you feel better." Lily nodded, still unsure, but Aiden could see a small spark of curiosity in her eyes. That was enough for him. For the next few days, Aiden tried to make the idea of the dance sound fun. He told her about the beautiful ballroom, the music, the food, and the pretty dresses. He even joked that he didn't know how to dance either, so they could learn together. Sometimes Lily smiled shyly at his attempts, but she never said much. Still, Aiden refused to give up. He arranged for a tailor to make her a soft blue dress. Not too flashy, just something simple and comfortable, because he knew she didn't like attention. The night of the dance finally arrived. The city was glowing under the evening lights, and Aiden's luxury car pulled up in front of the hotel. He glanced at Lily in the back seat. She was holding her favorite stuffed bunny close to her chest, the same one her mother had given her before she passed away. Her hair was neatly tied with a ribbon, and her little shoes sparkled faintly under the car's light. She looked beautiful, but Aiden could tell she was nervous as they walked into the hotel lobby. People greeted Aiden respectfully. Some knew him personally, others only by reputation. Everyone smiled at the sight of him arriving with his daughter, but Lily kept her head down, gripping his hand tightly. Aiden bent slightly and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll just take a look, all right?" She nodded without speaking. They entered the ballroom, and Aiden was amazed at how stunning everything looked. The chandeliers sparkled like diamonds, and the floor reflected the soft golden lights from above. Tables were lined with flowers, and soft music filled the air. Fathers danced proudly with their little girls, who twirled around in colorful dresses, giggling and laughing. The air felt full of love and joy, but not for Aiden and Lily. He guided her to a small table near the corner where they could sit quietly. A waiter brought them drinks, lemonade for Lily, and a glass of water for Aiden. He tried to talk to her, pointing out how pretty the decorations were, but she just looked around with wide, uncertain eyes. Every time another child laughed too loudly or someone clapped after a song, Lily flinched slightly. Aiden felt a pang in his chest. He didn't care what people thought, but he could feel their eyes on him, the rich, powerful man whose own daughter was too afraid to join in. Some of the other fathers gave him polite smiles, while a few whispered things behind their hands. He ignored them, but the sting of helplessness remained. He'd spent his whole life solving problems, yet here was one he couldn't fix with all his money or power. After a while, he bent down to Lily's level and said softly, "Would you like to dance with me? Just for a minute." No one will laugh, but Lily shook her head firmly, tears beginning to fill her eyes. She whispered, "I can't, Daddy. Everyone's looking." Aiden sighed quietly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "They're not looking at you, sweetheart," he said gently. "They're too busy dancing." But it didn't matter. Lily just hugged her bunny tighter and buried her face against his arm. He sat back in his chair, feeling a strange mix of sadness and guilt. He remembered how Clara used to dance around the living room with Lily when she was little, laughing and spinning her around until they both fell on the couch in a heap of giggles. That was before the sickness, before hospitals and quiet nights filled with worry. Lily hadn't danced since then. Aiden stared at the dance floor and wondered how things had gone so wrong. He had promised Clara he'd protect their daughter, that he'd make her feel safe and loved. But sitting there, watching her tremble, he realized he didn't even know how to reach her anymore. He would have traded every dollar he owned just to see her smile the way she used to, as the music continued and laughter echoed around the room. Aiden leaned back and took a deep breath. He reminded himself that tonight wasn't about appearances or expectations. He was here for Lily, and even if she didn't dance, he was proud of her for showing up. He knew it had taken courage just to walk into that room. He looked down at her again, her small hands clutching the stuffed bunny, her eyes following the dancers even though she didn't move. There was a longing in her gaze, as if part of her wanted to join them, but fear held her back. Aiden reached out and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. She looked up, and for a brief moment, she smiled. A tiny, shy smile that melted his heart. In that moment, Aiden made a quiet promise to himself. No matter how long it took, he would find a way to help Lily feel free again. He didn't know how yet, but he knew he couldn't give up. What he didn't realize was that before the night was over, someone unexpected, someone he had never met, would step in and do what he couldn't. And that person would change both their lives forever. The ballroom glittered like a dream. Soft music floated through the air, chandeliers shimmered above the polished floor, and laughter rang out from every corner. Fathers in suits twirled their little girls in colorful dresses while mothers stood at the sides, taking pictures and clapping. Everyone looked happy. Everyone except the man sitting quietly near the corner, Aiden Marshall and his daughter. Lily Aiden had chosen this hotel for the event himself. It was one of his properties, one of his proudest achievements. He wanted everything to be perfect, thinking maybe the beauty of the night would help his daughter feel comfortable. But now, as he sat beside her, he realized perfection didn't mean anything if she wasn't smiling. Lily sat with her hands folded in her lap, her stuffed bunny resting on her knees, her eyes downcast. The lights, the music, and all the noise seemed too much for her. He tried to make her laugh. He pointed at a little girl spinning so fast her father almost tripped, hoping Lily would find it funny. But she didn't even look up. She just tightened her hold on the bunny, her small fingers trembling slightly. Aiden's heart ached. He leaned down and whispered, "You don't have to dance right now, sweetheart. We can just sit here and watch." Lily gave a small nod, but she still looked scared, like she wanted to disappear into her chair. The room was full of people who knew who Aiden was, the billionaire hotel owner, the man whose face appeared on magazine covers. They noticed him sitting alone, and they noticed his daughter not joining the fun. Some of them whispered quietly, thinking they were being discreet. "She's too shy," someone said. "Maybe she spoiled another guest." Aiden heard it all. He tried to ignore them, pretending he didn't care, but inside, he felt a sting of pain. People always assumed money could fix everything. They didn't understand that some things, like a child's broken confidence, couldn't be bought. Lily shifted uncomfortably when the music changed to a lively song. The teacher at the microphone encouraged everyone to come to the dance floor. "Come on, dads and daughters. Let's see those moves." The crowd cheered. A few children ran to the center, giggling as their fathers followed. Aiden turned to Lily and smiled softly. "Shall we try?" he asked, holding out his hand. Lily didn't answer. She just shook her head and whispered, "I don't want to." Her voice was trembling. Aiden lowered his hand slowly, trying not to show his disappointment. "It's okay," he said gently. "We can stay right here. He forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. The minutes dragged on. Every song, every burst of laughter from the dance floor made Aiden feel more like an outsider. He wanted so badly for Lily to join in, but he didn't want to push her too hard. He knew she was scared of being watched, of being judged. She had always been that way, even at family gatherings. She'd hide behind her mother's legs or sit in the corner with her toys. Clara used to know exactly how to handle it. She'd pick Lily up, whisper something in her ear, and suddenly the little girl would smile. But Clara wasn't here anymore, and Aiden felt lost without her. He looked around and noticed the contrast. Other fathers were laughing loudly, holding their daughters close, spinning them around while everyone clapped. Some even came over to greet him politely. Aiden. "Long time no see," one man said cheerfully. "Your hotel looks stunning tonight." Aiden forced a polite nod, his businessman smile returning automatically. "Thank you," he said. "You have a lovely evening." But as soon as the man left, Aiden's smile faded. Lily was quiet the entire time. She sipped her lemonade slowly, barely touching the small plate of snacks in front of her. Aiden noticed she kept glancing toward the door, like she wanted to leave. He sighed softly, torn between staying and going. He didn't want her to remember the night as something scary, but he also didn't want to give up too soon. Maybe, just maybe, if they stayed a little longer, she would find the courage to dance. At one point, the lights dimmed, and the teacher announced a special song, a slow, gentle tune for the fathers and daughters to dance to together. The crowd cheered again. The floor filled with smiling faces, soft dresses, and shiny shoes gliding across the floor. It was beautiful to watch. Aiden leaned down again and whispered, "Sweetheart, would you like to try this one? Just a little dance with Daddy." Lily shook her head quickly, tears forming in her eyes. "I can't," she said in a broken voice. "Everyone's looking." Aiden felt his chest tighten. He hated seeing her so scared. "No one's looking, Lily," he said softly. "They're all too busy having fun." But she didn't believe him. She hid her face in her bunny, her small shoulders shaking. Aiden placed a comforting hand on her back, wishing he could take her fear away. He leaned back in his chair and watched her. She looked so fragile sitting there, his little girl who had once been so full of life. He remembered the days when she used to run around the garden with her mother, chasing butterflies and laughing so loud that even the neighbors smiled. Now that laughter was gone, replaced by silence and fear, as the music played. Aiden felt something he hadn't felt in years: helplessness. In business, he was always in control. He could fix problems, make decisions, and get results. But here as a father, he didn't know what to do. He could buy her toys, build her a playroom, even take her on trips around the world, but he couldn't make her happy. He couldn't bring back her confidence or her laughter. He looked around the ballroom again. The other girls looked so carefree, their little shoes tapping against the floor, their laughter filling the room. For a moment, he imagined Lily among them, smiling, dancing, her face glowing with joy. It was such a beautiful picture in his mind that his eyes grew moist. He quickly blinked away the tears, before anyone noticed. Aiden's attention was drawn to the waitstaff moving quietly around the room. Young men and women in black uniforms carried trays of food and drinks, making sure everyone was comfortable. Among them was a waitress who seemed different from the others. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile, and though she looked tired, there was warmth in her expression. At one point, Aiden noticed her glance toward Lily. She didn't look away quickly like others did. She just gave a small, understanding smile. Lily noticed her too. For a brief second, she peeked up and met the waitress's eyes. The woman smiled again, then went back to her work. But something about that moment lingered. Aiden didn't think much of it at the time, but that small connection, that silent understanding between a shy little girl and a kind stranger, would soon change everything. The night dragged on, and the music kept playing, but Lily never left her seat. Aiden stayed beside her the whole time, pretending not to notice the pitying glances from other parents. He didn't care about them anymore. He was just waiting for his daughter to feel safe. He reached out, gently stroking her hair, and said quietly, "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll go home soon." Lily looked up at him with teary eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry, Daddy. I Dane's heart broke a little. He smiled sadly and shook his head. "You never have to be sorry for anything," he said softly. "I'm proud of you just for being here." She nodded weakly and leaned her head against his arm. And as the music swelled and other fathers danced under the golden lights, Aiden sat still, holding his daughter close, unaware that fate was about to step in through the kindness of a stranger. And nothing would ever be the same again. Emma Torres had been working since early that morning. Her feet ached, her hands were tired, and her apron already had tiny stains from spilled drinks. She wasn't supposed to be working this late, but when her manager called and said someone called in sick, she didn't hesitate. She needed the money. Her mother's medical bills were piling up again, and rent was due in a week. A double shift meant exhaustion, but it also meant she could pay another part of the hospital fee. So she tied her hair up, put on her uniform, told herself she'd survive another long night. The hotel ballroom looked like a scene from a fairy tale. The soft glow of the chandeliers, the laughter of little girls in sparkling dresses, and the sound of violins playing made everything feel almost magical. But for Emma, it was just another night of work, carrying trays, smiling politely, and avoiding mistakes. She had worked in this hotel many times, but tonight felt different. The event was fancier, the guests wealthier, the air filled with the kind of perfume that only the rich could afford. As she moved between tables, she tried not to think about how out of place she felt. Her life was far from this world of silk dresses and shiny shoes. Her hands were rough from washing dishes, and her shoes were worn thin. She sometimes wondered how people could spend thousands on one night when others barely had enough to eat. But she had learned to keep her thoughts to herself. Her job was to smile, serve, and stay invisible. Still, Emma had a habit of noticing things, small details others ignored. She noticed when a child dropped their spoon, when a guest's glass was almost empty, or when someone looked lonely in a crowded room. That's how she noticed the man sitting quietly in the corner with his daughter. At first, she didn't realize who he was. She had seen his face in magazines before, but didn't connect it to the tired man sitting at that table. His suit looked expensive, but his eyes looked weary, like someone carrying a heavy sadness. Beside him sat a little girl in a soft blue dress, holding a stuffed bunny tightly against her chest. She wasn't laughing or dancing like the other children. She just sat there, staring at her drink, her little face pale and serious. Every time the music got louder, the girl seemed to shrink back a little more. When other children laughed too loudly, she flinched. Emma paused for a moment near their table, pretending to rearrange some napkins while she watched quietly. There was something about that little girl that tugged at her heart. She reminded Emma of herself years ago, quiet, scared, and unsure of where she fit in the world. Emma continued serving the other tables. But her eyes kept drifting back toward the girl. She saw the father lean down, trying to talk to her. He smiled, but she didn't respond. At one point, Emma saw him hold out his hand to invite her to dance. But the little girl shook her head quickly, clutching her bunny tighter. The man's smile faltered, and he looked away, pretending not to be hurt. It was a look Emma knew too well, the look of a parent trying not to show pain in front of their child. When the music changed again, Emma brought over a tray of drinks. As she passed by their table, she glanced at the girl and noticed her small hands trembling. Without thinking, she crouched down beside her. "Hi there," she said softly. "That's a very cute bunny you have. What's its name?" Lily looked up, surprised. For a moment, she didn't answer. No one except her father had spoken to her all evening. Emma smiled gently, waiting patiently. Finally, Lily whispered, "Boom-boon." "Ah." Her voice was tiny but clear. Emma grinned. "Bun-bun? That's the best name ever. He looks very brave." Lily blinked, as if unsure whether to believe that. "He's shy," she said after a pause. Emma nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, shy but brave, that's the best kind. You know, I used to be shy too." Aiden looked at the waitress, clearly surprised that his daughter was actually talking to someone. It had been so long since he'd seen her speak so freely, even if it was just a few quiet words. He watched silently, afraid that saying anything might break the moment. Emma continued in a calm, gentle tone. When I was your age, I was scared to talk to anyone. I always thought people were laughing at me. But one day my teacher told me something. She leaned in a little closer. She said, "Emma, you don't have to be brave all the time, just for a few seconds. That's enough to do something amazing." Lily tilted her head slightly, her eyes curious. "Just a few seconds?" "Yep," Emma said with a warm smile. "That's all it takes." Lily looked down at her bunny, thinking about it. Then something incredible happened. She giggled. A small, soft sound that made Aiden's heart skip a beat. He hadn't heard that sound in so long. Emma's face lit up, delighted. "See? Bun Bun agrees with me," she said playfully, pretending the bunny had nodded. Lily laughed again, hiding her face shyly behind her toy. Aiden was speechless. It felt like a miracle. He couldn't understand how this stranger had done in 2 minutes what he hadn't been able to do in months. He wanted to thank her, but his throat felt tight. He just sat there, watching, amazed. Emma didn't stay long. She didn't want to overstep. She stood up, adjusting her tray, and said softly, "You have a beautiful smile, you know. You should use it more often." Lily blushed and looked down, but she smiled again anyway. Then Emma turned to Aiden. "She's a wonderful little girl," she said kindly. "Thank you." Aiden replied, his voice low and full of emotion. "Thank you for talking to her." Emma gave a small nod, her eyes warm. "Sometimes all kids need is someone to see them," she said gently. And then she walked away to serve another table. But Lily's eyes followed her. For the first time that night, she looked alive, her shyness replaced by curiosity. She asked her father quietly, "Daddy, can we stay a little longer?" Aiden was taken aback. "Of course we can," he said quickly. He smiled, a real smile this time, feeling hope stir inside him for the first time in a long while. As the night went on, Lily kept glancing around, hoping to catch another glimpse of the kind waitress. Sometimes she'd see her from across the room, carrying trays or refilling glasses. And every time she did, her face lit up just a little. Aiden noticed, and his chest filled with warmth. He didn't know who this waitress was. She had managed to reach his daughter in a way he COULDN, single quotes. Emma, meanwhile, didn't realize the impact she had made. To her, it was just a small moment, a quiet conversation with a lonely child. But to Aiden and Lily, it was the beginning of something life-changing. By the end of the evening, as guests started to leave, Lily was still sitting up straight, her bunny resting calmly in her lap. She wasn't hiding anymore. She even hummed along softly to the last song playing. Aiden sat beside her, too moved to speak. He looked at his daughter's tiny smile, then glanced around the room, his eyes searching for the waitress who had made it happen. He spotted her near the doorway, talking to another staff member, still smiling, that kind, patient smile. And in that quiet moment, Aiden realized something. Sometimes the most extraordinary people come into your life without warning. And sometimes, all it takes is a stranger's kindness to bring light back into a heart that had forgotten how to shine. The soft music changed again, this time to a slow, gentle song. The kind of song made for swaying, for holding someone close, and for feeling the warmth of a quiet moment. Aiden watched the dance floor, his heart heavy. All around him, fathers and daughters were moving gracefully, laughing and spinning in circles. But Lily still sat in her chair, clutching her stuffed bunny, her small body trembling slightly. She didn't even glance at the floor, too afraid that everyone would notice her fear. Aiden leaned closer, whispering softly, "Sweetheart, would you like to dance with me?" He held out his hand, his eyes filled with hope. Lily shook her head immediately, her face pressed into the bunny's soft fur. "No, Daddy, I can't. Everyone's watching," she whispered. His heart sank, and he sighed quietly. He knew that tonight no amount of coaxing from him would make her brave enough to join the crowd. But just then, something unexpected happened. Emma, the waitress who had noticed Lily earlier, was passing by with a tray of drinks. She glanced at the little girl again, her warm eyes meeting Lily's nervous ones. Without thinking, she paused, knelt down beside Lily, and smiled gently. "Hi there," she said softly. "Would you like to dance with me?" Just right here, where no one else can see? Lily's eyes widened. Her small hand clutched the bunny tighter. She shook her head, unsure. Emma didn't push. She just stayed close, kneeling on the floor, speaking calmly. It's okay if you're scared. I'm right here with you. You don't have to worry about anyone else. Aiden could hardly believe what he was seeing. His daughter, who had not spoken freely to anyone all evening, was now looking at a stranger with trust in her eyes. Slowly, Lily nodded. Emma extended her hand again, this time a little closer. Lily hesitated then, with a tiny sigh, placed her hand in Emma's. Emma held her hand gently and guided her to a small, empty space at the side of the dance floor. It was quiet there, away from everyone else. We'll just sway nice and slow, Emma whispered. Lily nodded again, her face still nervous but curious. Emma began moving slowly and Lily followed, swaying back and forth. At first, Lily's movements were awkward, unsure. She clung to Emma's hand and shifted her weight nervously. But Emma spoke softly the whole time, making gentle jokes and pretending the bunny was dancing too. Bun says he wants to spin a little. Can you help him? Lily giggled, a small, soft sound, and for the first time that evening, Aiden felt a spark of hope. Emma kept encouraging her, whispering that she was doing wonderfully and that there was no need to worry about the other people in the room. Slowly, Lily began to move more confidently, swaying with Emma's rhythm. Aiden's chest tightened as he watched. His daughter was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. He wanted to step forward, to hug her, and tell her how proud he was, but he stayed seated. He wanted this moment to belong to her, not to himself. When the song reached its middle, Lily laughed softly, a sound that made Aiden's eyes well up. He hadn't realized how much he had missed hearing her laugh. Emma twirled her gently in place, making little exaggerated spins, and Lily giggled again, holding on tightly. Her fear began to fade, replaced by joy. She was dancing, really dancing, and it was all because of this kind stranger who had taken the time to see her. When the song ended, Lily suddenly threw her arms around Emma, hugging her tightly. She whispered something in Emma's ear that made Emma's eyes glisten with tears. Thank you, Lily, said softly. Thank you for dancing with me. Aiden's heart melted. He got up slowly and approached them, trying to contain the emotions swelling in his chest. Thank you, he said to Emma, his voice low but filled with gratitude. I don't know what to say. You've done what I couldn't. Emma smiled, shaking her head gently. No need to say anything, she replied. Sometimes kids just need someone to see them, to let them feel safe for a little while. That's all. Aiden was stunned. He had spent a fortune on the best teachers, therapists, and experiences. But it was this waitress's kindness that had reached Lily in a way he couldn't. He felt a wave of humility and gratitude. This simple act, kneeling beside his daughter, holding her hand, and dancing quietly, had opened a door in her heart that no amount of money could have unlocked. Lily looked up at her father after the hug and smiled. Daddy, I danced, she whispered, her voice bright with excitement. Aiden knelt down and hugged her, feeling the warmth and love he had longed for. Yes, you did, sweetheart. You were amazing, he said, his voice full of pride. Emma quietly stepped back, giving them space. But she stayed close enough that Lily could see her. Lily waved shyly, and Emma waved back, smiling. Aiden watched as the two exchanged that quiet connection, realizing how much this moment had changed the evening. It was no longer about a fancy ballroom, music, or appearances. It was about trust, kindness, and the first steps of courage. After a few more minutes, Emma moved on to serve another table, but Lily's confidence lingered. She no longer clutched her bunny so tightly. She looked around at the other dancers and, just for a second, imagined herself joining them. She smiled up at her father and whispered, Maybe next time I can dance with everyone. Aiden felt tears prick his eyes. He couldn't believe the transformation in his daughter in such a short time. He realized that sometimes all a child needed wasn't fancy lessons, expensive toys, or grand gestures. Sometimes it was just someone who could see them, who could reach them with patience and understanding. As the night went on, Aiden stayed by Lily's side, watching her interact quietly with the world around her. She laughed softly when the music played, whispered to him excitedly about little things she noticed, and even looked around to see if Emma was nearby. Aiden knew he would never forget this moment, the night his daughter began to step out of her fear. Thanks to the courage given to her by someone she had only just met. For Aiden, it was also a lesson. He realized that even all the money and power in the world couldn't replace the simple human acts of kindness and patience. Watching his daughter smile and sway in Emma's arms made him understand that love, attention, and care were the most powerful tools he could ever give her. By the end of the song, Lily hugged Emma one last time before the waitress moved away. Aiden thanked her again, his voice trembling slightly. "I can't believe you did this. Thank you so much." Emma gave a warm smile. "It was nothing," she said softly. "Just a little dance." But to Aiden and Lily, it was everything. That little dance, that simple hug, had changed their night, and it would change their lives forever. Lily had found courage, and Aiden had found hope. And all it took was the kindness of a stranger who had seen a frightened little girl and helped her take the first step toward joy. As the ballroom continued to buzz with laughter and music, Aiden held Lily close. For the first time in a long while, he felt peace. He knew that tonight would be remembered forever. Not for the chandeliers. Not for the dresses, not for the music, but for the small, quiet moment when someone's heart opened the door to happiness, courage, and love. After that night at the father-daughter dance, Aiden couldn't stop thinking about Emma Torres. She was just a waitress, someone who had been working quietly in his hotel, but she had done something no one else could. She had reached Lily in a way that he never had been able to. Her kindness had given his daughter courage, and for that, he felt more gratitude than he had words to express. A few days later, Aiden asked the hotel manager for more information about her. He wanted to know who she was, where she came from, and how someone so young could have such a gentle, powerful way with children. The manager told him that Emma had been working at the hotel for several years. She was hardworking and responsible, always going above and beyond. But what caught Aiden's attention was that she had recently left her previous job to care for her sick mother. The manager explained that Emma had been juggling work, long hours, and her mother's medical needs for months. She was struggling, but she never complained. Aiden felt a rush of emotion. Here was someone who had shown his daughter compassion and courage while she herself carried so much responsibility. He decided then and there that he needed to help her, not as a businessman, but as a father who knew what she had done for his child. It took a few days of careful searching, but Aiden finally tracked Emma down to a small apartment across town. When he arrived, he saw her sitting on the couch, looking tired but still holding herself with quiet dignity. He knocked lightly, and when she opened the door, he introduced himself politely. "Hello, Emma. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I just wanted to thank you personally for what you did for my daughter." Emma blinked, surprised. She had not expected to see the billionaire hotel owner standing at her door. "I'm just doing my job," she said softly, trying to downplay it. Aiden shook his head firmly. "No, Emma, you did more than your job. You gave my daughter courage. You gave her a reason to smile when she hadn't smiled in months. That's something no money or lesson could have done. I want to help you with your mother's medical bills. I want to make sure she gets the care she needs." Emma hesitated. She had never accepted charity before and didn't like the idea of someone paying for her family's needs. But Aiden explained that this wasn't charity, it was gratitude. A way to acknowledge what she had done for Lily. Slowly, she agreed. Aiden arranged for the hospital bills to be paid in full, easing a burden that had weighed heavily on her. Her family, Emma, was grateful but insisted that she wanted to do something in return. She had a dream, a small idea that had been in her heart for years. She wanted to start a community dance program for shy or anxious children, a place where kids could feel safe, practice dancing, and gain confidence, just as she had helped Lily that night. She wanted to give other children the same courage and joy she had seen in Lily. Aiden's eyes lit up. He realized that helping Emma could be even bigger than just paying bills. He could support her dream and help other children gain the confidence they needed. He became the first sponsor of her program, providing resources, space, and encouragement. Emma worked tirelessly, creating a safe and welcoming environment where children could explore movement, music, and self-expression without fear. Lily's transformation didn't stop at that night either. She began to show more confidence at school, interacting with classmates and participating in activities she had previously avoided. She even began asking her father to help her practice dancing at home. Aiden, who had once felt helpless, now watched his daughter blossom. He realized that a simple act of kindness could ripple outward in ways he never imagined. Over time, Lily became a regular visitor at Emma's dance program. She loved the classes, the music, and most importantly, the encouragement she received. Emma became not just a mentor but a friend, someone Lily could trust, look up to, and learn from. Aiden often watched quietly from the doorway, amazed at how far his daughter had come in such a short time. The shy little girl who had sat trembling at the dance now moved with confidence, smiled freely, and even danced in front of other children without fear. The bond between Aiden, Lily, and Emma grew stronger as months passed. Aiden often reflected on that first night, the night when a stranger had stepped in to do what he could not. He realized that no amount of wealth could replace the power of human connection, patience, and understanding. Emma had shown him that sometimes the simplest gestures, like holding a child's hand and dancing gently with them, could change lives. Emma's program continued to grow, attracting more children and families from the community. She taught them not only to dance but to believe in themselves. Parents noticed changes in their children, how they became more confident, more expressive, and more willing to face fears. The little program became a symbol of hope, courage, and kindness, and Aiden quietly funded it, proud to be part of something that changed lives in such a profound way. Years later, Lily would look back on that night at the father-daughter dance as the moment her life changed. It wasn't just about learning to dance. It was about learning to trust, to take chances, and to embrace joy. She often remembered the gentle hands of Emma, the soft encouragement, doing the way someone believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Aiden, too, carried that memory with him. It reminded him that even in a world of power, wealth, and influence, the most meaningful things came from simple acts of love and care. That night had taught him more about parenting, patience, and human kindness than anything else in his life. Looking at Lily now, confident and smiling, Aiden felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had learned that sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Sometimes a stranger's heart can open doors that no wealth, no effort, and no plan could ever open. And sometimes all it takes is a little courage, a gentle touch, and a kind smile to change someone's life forever. From that night onward, the bond between father, daughter, and the kind waitress became a story they would always remember. It was the story of courage, love, and hope, a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness could have the power to heal, inspire, and transform lives. Lily grew up confident, full of life, and always grateful for that gentle touch that had set her free from fear. Emma's presence remained a constant in their lives. She continued to mentor children, inspire parents, and help families like her own. And Aiden often reflected on the night, realizing that the greatest gift he had witnessed wasn't wealth, success, or influence. It was the simple, human power of kindness. That night at the dance, the timid little girl who had hidden behind her bunny learned to smile, laugh, and trust again. And Aiden learned that sometimes the person who changes your life isn't a parent, a teacher, or even someone famous. Sometimes it's a stranger who notices, who cares, and who chooses to act. That simple choice had created ripples that would last a lifetime, forever connecting 3 lives in a bond of trust, courage, and love.